Love. Um, let's do a quick little vibe check. It's the first day of the week. It's the first Monday of the month. We're heading into the end of, the first quarter of the year. If y'all want to drop like one win for the week or even for last week, and I know that I just did a lot of your guys' check-ins, so you guys should have something to say. How did this week go? Did you learn something new? Did you show up for yourself in a different way? I would love to know and also bring all the vibes. Sometimes it's also good just to see other people's wins, especially along this journey, just because some weeks are like super, good and everything's fine. And then, sometimes life kicks you in the ass. So, okay, yeah, Jordan, literally sick kiddos left and right. I know we've had a couple other people who were sick themselves, which always throws a damper in things. I feel like I always get sick when I'm like in momentum and like super motivated, and then like it's always like out of my control. Anyone else want to share a win before we dive in? Sophia did great with her protein goal. Also, can we also mention that it was literally your first week having a protein goal and she literally hit it spot on. So, um, that takes time, but I don't want to say it's beginner's luck. We'll see how it goes next week. All right, cool. So we'll kind of dive in. And so this is going to be your new food pyramid. I like to call this the food pyramid 2.0. When I was making this, I really was like, damn, I should be a spokesperson going around to the schools and teaching this because it's crazy that what we were taught, and also like what we're really not taught, And so it's just interesting that obviously you guys are all here in this program because you want to learn and you want to learn how we're supposed to be eating. You want to learn how to support your goals. And I know for a lot of us, like maybe our parents never taught us how to, and I hear we say like being healthy, right? Because that's obviously a spectrum as well too. But this is kind of going to show you that spectrum of, what does that really mean? And like what should I be focusing on and what is important? And also like now in this day of age, we're so blessed that we have, social media and we're surrounded by a lot of people who are educated and can teach us, but then also we're surrounded by, influencers or people kind of reiterating things that don't really know what they're talking about and they see it and then they put it out there and then we can start spiraling down rabbit holes that like really aren't necessary, or focusing on just the wrong things when it comes to nutrition. And so I feel like the industry leads people to think like you have to be focusing on things like organic versus like non-organic, and that's going to be like a determiner of your results when it's really just not. And not to say that that's not important and that you shouldn't buy organic when you can or anything like that, but there's really like a hierarchy of importance. And so that's kind of what I'm going to show you guys here. So, um, some of us are, just beginning out, and so this will be great for you to learn. For others, you might be here longer. Some of it might seem, like a little redundant because you're learning it in this program, but there's also higher levels that a lot of us haven't got to yet. And so you'll be able to have some cool takeaways and things to kind of focus on even after. And we can obviously work one-on-one in our check-ins to see more of what that would look like and how to apply it. But this basically is just me trying to say, like, no matter where you are in your journey, you're going to walk away with, like, okay, this is where I'm at in the hierarchy, maybe. And, like, maybe this is the next thing I can focus on, which will be cool. So, first things first is there's three levels. So, level one is going to be the foundation. So, I'm not going to stay on the slide too long. This is kind of more of like a summary. And so, we're going to dive into it on the next few slides. But if you want to like screenshot anything, this would probably be the one just so that you can kind of keep tabs on this and know kind of where you're at as you kind of level up per se. And so level one's going to be the foundation, and that's a lot of what we obviously focus on in this program and like, eating enough and, having a good relationship with food. Once you nail that down, then you can, like move up to level two and
Hey,
just focus.
oh,
You're good, Jordan. I can mute you. Anyways, you can focus more on optimization per se. So things like meal timing and, focusing more on like what are the ingredients in my food, things like that. And then same thing for like level three. And so the first thing I want to say is, what's step one of building a house? And so hopefully the first thing that comes to mind is like laying a foundation. So if you're paying all this money and you're having a house being built, you're probably not going to want to skip that first step of building your house, right? And so it's like the foundation is probably the most important step. And it should be the priority focus. And then, like, honestly, if you even stayed at level one for forever, you're going to be way better off than like pretty much everyone else that you probably know because they're probably not doing this. But yeah, like a lot of people I guess depending on what season of life that you're in too, you know what I mean? Like you can kind of dabble around, but also like depending on your priorities, I guess is what I should say too. So it's like some people can stay at level one and you're going to see killer results, you're going to feel great and you're going to achieve all your goals and you can, be smooth sailing, rinse and repeat. And like maybe that's your happy medium. Some people, want to dive a little bit more and be a little bit more optimized and worry about those little details. And, that's cool too. But you don't necessarily need all three of these levels. I also want to reiterate. So, okay. So level one, like I was saying, is, calorie goal and protein goal. If you're not eating enough on a daily basis to support your body, to support your goals, to have proper energy, to support your metabolism. A lot of us are in here or start our, fitness journey based off of like a physique goal or an aesthetic goal or a weight loss goal. And so you need to be eating enough to support that goal too. So, as you'll see throughout the program and just everything too, it's like as your body changes, your calorie goal will change. And so learning that and learning the different seasons and the phases, if you guys haven't watched the metabolic mastery. I couldn't think of what it was called for a second. The metabolic mastery, like master class that I did, that kind of goes through the phases that reiterates the 6 month program and everything. I highly recommend going back and watching that. But as you guys know, I always say like diet for 12 weeks max, and then we'll bring you up to maintenance. So it's like your diet, you might be eating 1,500 calories. Your maintenance might be 2,000. And so it's like going through that cycle a couple times is already like pretty advanced. So it's like, just kind of learning that is the most important before you worry about really anything else. It's knowing how to support your body when you're dieting, knowing how to support your body when you're not dieting and you're at maintenance, and, just supporting all of your like your organs and your body systems in general is genuinely what's most important. So it's like if you're struggling to, hit your calorie and your protein goal, like that should be the only thing that is on your priority list. And I always say calories are king and protein is queen. So, they go together though. So we can't have one without the other. And then I used to teach macros. So if you guys are familiar with that, anyone in here, I'm just curious too, like, have you ever tracked all three macros before? I don't know if you want to like raise your hand or drop in the chat like that you have. And my old clients, back in the day when I first started, I used to have them track all three. But now I realize that like that doesn't necessarily drive the needle forward. It's not really necessary. And it's so much more flexible to just have a calorie and protein goal versus trying to hit a certain number of carbs, a certain number of fats, a certain number of protein. Like it kind of was a lot and it's not really necessary. But having balanced meals in general is helpful. And I would say that beyond that, your next priority could be implementing things like probiotics and fiber. So, some people can honestly like never implement this and be just fine. And also a part of like your check-ins is me asking you about your digestion. I'm asking about your sleep, and I'm kind of teaching you how to identify if there might be like a gut issue. Okay, Sophia with the gut health. And so basically, some people I would just want to say like their gut really isn't a problem, and like I'll never really tell you to focus on fiber and probiotics and stuff if you don't really need to, and it can be a little bit more advanced, but it's like if you're going to focus on anything outside of calories and protein, I would say implementing some sort of probiotics and, a fiber goal. So I listed some of the main sources here. The main thing with the probiotics is, having a couple servings a day. An easy one is yogurt. So Greek yogurt, regular yogurt, those have probiotics in it. I be eating it twice a day, honestly. I don't eat too much of the other pickled stuff. Like I really love pickled onions. But it's kind of hard for me to implement some of those things on like a daily basis, whereas like yogurt's really easy for me. Or you could, get a supplement of probiotics too. But as you guys know, I always try to say like if you can get it from your food and your diet, then cool, because by default, supplements are meant to supplement what your diet's lacking, right? So, yeah, it's not required by any means, but it can be helpful. And then if you don't know what probiotics do, basically that's the gut bacteria that maintains your gut. But fiber, aka prebiotics, is like the proper term for it, um, is the food that the gut bacteria eats. So fiber is the food for the probiotics. So it's really important that you have both because they work together. And so fiber, we hear a lot of people say that you need like 25 grams a day as a good goal. That's a very like generic goal, and that's good. If you want to get even more specific of what's technically recommended, it's actually based on your overall calories. So depending on what your calorie goal is, will dictate how much fiber you actually need to support your body currently. And so the rule of thumb is 14 grams per every 1,000 calories. So on there, I put, just for quick math, 28 grams of fiber a day if you're eating 2,000 a day. So just good to know, and I put some sources there. And then the other, most important thing that I always try to reiterate is a good relationship with food. Like if you are struggling with labeling foods as good or bad, or, feeling shame or guilt, or you're super food focused and you're always anticipating your next meal, or you're always having shiny object syndrome of like, I want to do this diet or whatever, it's like that might not seem like a big deal to you, but it's probably like the most important thing for longevity and long-term consistency. And yeah, so I always try to preach like there is no such thing as good or bad. And if you feel like you're in that cycle, then, once again, this is where you should kind of stay put up. So level one. I know this is like a like a long lecture based. I feel like the other calls I keep like pausing and they're more interactive and everything. So does anyone have any questions, comments, anything before I move on to the next level? My dog's crying in the back. She's like, no, I hear this all the time. Okay, level two. So let's say you got all that down. You don't even have to think about it. Like you're hitting your calorie and your protein goal every damn day. You love food. You have no problem with it. You have the fiber down, you have the probiotics down, and you're feeling good. Then I would say you can graduate to level two. So meal timing. And why is this important? So basically, I always say when you're first starting out, as long as you get your calories in and your protein in, it doesn't matter what that looks like. So as long as you get it done before you go to bed, like just get that shit in. If you are having, like that's easy. Once again, you don't have to think about it. Then I would say focus on having ample time in between meals, but also eating more regularly. So I like to remember the 4 hour rule. So that can be something that you can kind of remember and kind of take away with you so that you're eating regularly throughout the day to support your energy and also your appetite and your hunger hormones. Our bodies thrive and love routine. Like same thing with like circadian rhythm when you're sleeping. Like same thing with keeping like your wake and your sleep cycles the same. If you eat your meal schedule like the same and you keep it the same and consistent, your body will literally adapt and start anticipating it to the point to where like you won't even have to be looking at the clock. Like your stomach's growling, it knows it's 8 o'clock, it knows it's 12 o'clock, and like it's kind of cool because then once again, like this also becomes second nature and you don't have to like think about it or put too much mind and effort into it. Like this is just what my life is now. Like this is literally my schedule. I eat at 8, 12, 4, and 8. And like even if I'm also, you don't have to be perfect spot on with this. So that's why it's like, okay, like every 4 to 5 hours. So it's like if it ends up being 9 or like whatever, that's fine too. But just eating consistent. With the meal timing, and so even if you're not working out every single day, having pre and post workout meal timing can also be helpful. And I'm going to dive into that on the next slide. So I'll save that, and kind of what that actually looks like and some tips and, a little framework around that, which will be kind of fun. And then, like I was saying next is after you're, eating your calories and protein, I always say like, as long as you get your protein, I don't care where the rest of your calories come from. But if you do want to just, feel your best and, make sure that you're getting enough vitamins and minerals and really truly absorbing all of that on like a cellular level, so that you don't need things like supplements or multivitamins and you just want to like feel your best, then in general, I would say obviously prioritizing whole foods, right? So things that come from the earth. And I know that's kind of like a no-brainer, but it's like you don't have to be eating whole 30 or eating it 100% of the time. But it's like if you are just, being mindful and doing it 80% of the time, then the other 20% you can enjoy treats and like, more processed foods and stuff. And so like a real example of that is I always show you guys how like I like to meal prep Monday through Friday. And by meal prepping Monday through Friday, that's already the 80%. And then Saturday and Sunday, you guys see I try to post it too. Like I just eat whatever the fuck on the weekends because I already ate my 80%. And then I like to save it for the weekends that way because I'm once again such like a routine person to where like my week I'm just like busy and I like saving my treats for like times with friends and like social events and things. And that typically for me happens on the weekend. So once again, you can do whatever you want. These are just to give you some ideas for moving forward. Any questions about this before I go on? All right, cool. Wait, did I skip it? Yeah, I skipped like two. Okay. So for the pre-workout, post-workout meals, so first of all, if you're not eating every 3 to 4 hours or whatever, I would start there. But if you want to focus on pre-workout and post-workout meal, like this would be a little formula for you guys. And so in general, there's going to be a lot of similarities. There's some slight differences between the pre-workout and the post-workout for optimization purposes. My dogs, I swear, only want to play like when I'm on a call. They were literally just fine. Girl, come here. Pepper. Um, no, I feel like that just made it worse. They're literally squaring up in the back. Okay, I'm just gonna keep going. Um, for both of the meals, you want to have roughly 30 to 40 grams of protein with the meal, and you also want it to have carbs. So protein heavy, carb heavy. The most substantial difference between the two would be the timing. So pre-workout, you want to have about 1 to 3 hours before your workout, mainly so that you can actually like digest the food and absorb it properly so that it's not like too close to like when you're about to go work out and then you feel sick or something. Um, but you want to typically avoid high fats for both meals, because it slows this digestion down. So you want to have something that is quick, which is like carbs and protein, and your food can easily digest. So I gave some examples there. But the main purpose, and you're like, hey, like, why do I care about pre-workout, post-workout? Is the pre-workout meal serves to prevent muscle breakdown and to also give you energy for that workout. I don't know about you guys, but like I used to train fasted and like, sometimes it's lower energy, but like if you're training like later in the day and you haven't really eaten all day, like you're gonna be tired. You're gonna be like barely able to lift as like, like heavy and things like that too. Um, so this will just make sure that you're performing your best and getting the most out of your workouts. Um, and then the post-workout meal. So in your actual workout, a lot of people focus on the workout and think the workout's the important part and like the physical working out part. But actually what's happening during the workout is that your muscles being broken down. And so the important part is actually after the workout and it's recovering when the muscles repair and kind of form back together. And so this post-workout meal helps support that muscle repair and replenishes your glycogen levels and everything post-workout. So, once again, if you're not doing the meal timing thing, start there. But if you really want to just like make sure that like every single training session is your best that you can make it, especially if you're only working out like 2 to 3 days a week, it's like, we really want to make sure that we're performing our best and giving it our all and getting the most bang for our buck. So then that might be something that you want to consider implementing. Um, And so with that, I thought this would be kind of cool to show you guys like, I guess like an example of like what that would look like of like a full day of eating, like timing wise. And so I kind of broke it up into like if you work out first thing in the morning versus working out in the afternoon or working out in the evening. So um everyone's schedule is different. I just kind of picked a time, but you can screenshot this and kind of use it as a rough guideline for, how to possibly structure your day. And I also want to say, like, you can do this like Monday through Friday and then like not follow it on the weekends. Like, really make this your own. But if you follow it long enough, once again, it kind of just becomes second nature and you won't have to think about it and your body will just kind of naturally anticipate it. So, first things first, if right when you, no matter what time, you'll kind of see that, and at the bottom, I put like key things for all. This is like the formula that I applied for all the days, but just kind of moving some of the times around. First thing in the morning, and y'all are going to hear this in your check-in if you are slacking on your water goal. I know that I probably piss you off. But you guys need to be chugging water like the second you open your eyes, like roll over and chug. And I don't want like a couple little sips. Like I want 10 to 15 chugs. I am now doing 20 chugs because um I have been being so fake and slacking on my water goal. And so like I am telling myself like clearly like 10 to 15 chugs ain't enough because I'm just not picking my water bottle up enough. So if you need to take 20 chugs, like girl, take 20 chugs. But right when you open your eyes, the only thing that should be touching your lips is water. Then if you can delay food and caffeine for up to an hour after you wake up, that's ideal. Um, Food for digestion purposes, and then caffeine because of cortisol. So basically, cortisol is our stress hormone. And so when you wake up first thing in the morning, your cortisol is naturally elevated. So if you chug coffee, chug an energy drink, slam a pre-workout first thing before eating or drinking anything, it's going to spike that cortisol level up through the roof. Why do you give a fuck about this? Because it literally is going to cause that afternoon crash. So if you're like relying on caffeine, slamming energy drinks, drinking 4 cups of coffee, and 1 p.m. rolls around and you're exhausted, and then you're like opting in for another one and it's still not working, then that's a sign that you need to do this right away. It is hard to kind of like limit your caffeine or like kind of detox from it at first, like the first week or so. But after that, I swear you'll like immediately feel better and you'll be like, okay, ironically, the thing that you think is like curing you is actually hurting you. But anyways, I'm not anti-caffeine by any means. I drink coffee in the morning on my way to the gym or at the gym, and then I typically drink like an energy drink later. So I mean, I'm not like exempt from this, but you can do it smart. So the smart way to do it is to delay it as long as possible. So I wake up at 5 in the morning. Um, I don't have time to necessarily eat a pre-workout meal. So if you're like me and you either don't have time or you simply like don't have an appetite first thing in the morning, try to eat something small. This could be a rice cake, a banana, a date, a granola bar. Just try to get something. A protein shake would be a bonus because then it would have that protein and carb that I was talking about, right? But even then, like once again, I'm not perfect. I will never preach perfection. I don't do that. I should, but I don't. And I just do, something to get something in my stomach. And then I'll bring my coffee with me to the gym. So by the time that I wake up, it's 5. By the time I get to the gym, it's 6. And I've already chugged my water, had a little snack, and then I start drinking my coffee at 6, which is an hour later, right? So an hour is like, the golden rule. If you can wait longer, even better. Um, and then as you kind of go out through the day, you'll see that I put like, my post-workout meal, lunch, dinner, dessert, bedtime. And I did the same for, afternoon, evening. So you can kind of go through and see where you fit. And we can work on this together too, if that's something that you want to implement. More than happy to walk through and help you, kind of lay that out and have a rough structure depending on your schedule and your work life. And, what if Tuesdays and Wednesdays or look different for you or whatever the case may be because some of us have some fluctuating schedules. Um, but in general, chugging water, delaying caffeine in food will help you with your energy and your cortisol regulation. So making sure that you actually are going to have sustained energy throughout the day. Your pre-workout meal, you want to have at least an hour before if possible, 3 hours at the latest if you're going to focus on that. And then your post-workout meal, you can eat right away. I also used to, I don't know if you guys even heard about this. I remember like 10 years ago, the whole thing was that like you have to eat within 30 minutes of working out or else like you're gonna die. That's not really necessary, but you do want to eat as soon as possible within that 2 hour time frame after you finish your workout. So just something to keep in mind after, you're leaving the gym or finishing a workout. And then I'm not really into fasting. I don't really think that, I mean, it can be beneficial for some, but it's mainly the thing that I would say is having a cutoff time and cutting off food 1 hour before bed. And this isn't because it's bad for you or that it's going to make you fat or that anything like that. Like I hate that myth so much, but it's really just for your digestion. So if you're limiting food an hour before you go to bed, then that will help you digest better. And then also that means that your body is working less harder while you're sleeping. So like while you're sleeping, your body will actually be able to go into a deeper sleep, like hit that REM because it's not worrying and working in the background to digest your food. So I don't know if you guys even notice, but like if you do eat like super late at night or like stuff your face, like now you might notice, but you'll like kind of wake up kind of groggy and tired. And it's typically because your body was working hard all night to digest your food. Um, and then you'll see that I kind of between like bedtime and wake up time that I put, sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night, which is something everyone should be striving for and focusing on. And I know that, throughout the program, I try to help you with this with your wind down routines and such. But this is just kind of a way to have like a, larger overview of everything that I teach throughout the program, and then also just implementing these meal timings as an example for you guys. Okay, I am just going and going. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay, let's do this.
Yeah, I kind of threw one in the chat.
Okay,
So like, if you had to pick one or the other, which would you recommend for pre or post? Or if you still say like both, definitely prioritize the 4 hours first before you even start thinking about it.
yeah, so I would say focus on the 4 hours first. Because if you're eating every 4 hours, you're likely gonna fall within that window naturally. So like you'll see, for example, like if you're eating breakfast at 10 right here, 4 hours later is already lunch. And then like 4 to 5 hours later is dinner. So it's like you're kind of naturally hitting it. Same thing with like the 9 to 1. It's like it's hitting that, the 4 to 5 hour window that I was mentioning. So start there. And then if you kind of get that down, then you can focus more on like the pre-workout, post-workout. And what I mean by that, I mean like the contents of it. So like right now you're just kind of eating whatever and hitting your calories. If you wanted to be more optimized, then you would be focusing on meals that are higher in protein and carbs and don't really have fats in them. So then you would be more particular about the actual foods that you're eating within those meals. So meal timing is most important. And then if you really want to dive in the nitty-gritty, then you can be like, hey, I'm going to make sure I'm only eating protein and carbs at these meals to be most effective, if that makes more sense. Okay, cool. Good question. I love that. Okay, so this is gonna be my last slide and then we'll wrap it up. So it's a kind of a quick one, actually. So last here, the teeny tiny little one at the top to me that is the most insignificant, but once again doesn't mean that it doesn't have, value or purpose in it, is gonna be the finishing touches. So this is gonna be, micronutrients, eating ample fruits and veggies. So beyond just having fiber and probiotics, right, and whole foods, it's like you can have probiotics and fiber and eat whole foods, but not be eating, a variety of fruits and vegetables. With that being said, if you're eating the same fruits and vegetables every day, like I do that, I'm guilty of this. Like I really only eat like broccoli and blueberries. It's like that's not getting a full piece of the pie, It's like you want to have as much color and variety as possible, and you want to kind of um rotate them, in and out and have like a different vegetable every day or a different fruit every day because they're all going to have different, vitamins and minerals. Once again, I don't even do this, but it's like, the best way to make sure that you're having all of your, vitamins and minerals naturally through your food, right? Then I would say focusing on like organic versus non-organic. Like at the end of the day, I know that there's like a list of like things that, you should really opt into being or having organic versus not. But like, girl, if you're not even eating fucking fruits and vegetables, why are you worried about if it's organic or not? Like, eat a vegetable first, please, and then whatever, and then worry about where it's coming from. Same thing with like the grass-fed, free range, non-GMO stuff. Like, I know it can be pricier too. It's not gonna like make or break your progress or, your health by any means. But, once again, if you're hitting all these markers and you want to be more cognizant and intentional about like where you're getting things from, and like by all means, support local, go to the farmer's market. Like, I'm all for having things fresh. But I'm just saying it's not necessarily going to be like driving the needle forward and, gonna make or break your progress by any means. Um, and then lastly, as dairy-free, gluten-free. This one is like okay, this question is what I get often from people who are struggling with like PCOS, hormone stuff, and they come to me and they're like, "Hey, like, do I need to be cutting out dairy and gluten because I see that everyone says to do that, or I feel like it can be like kind of demonized." So, um, I only have my PCOS girlies explore going dairy-free, gluten-free, or people in general, even if I don't know that they might be, struggling with PCOS. I only do this if you're intolerant or sensitive. And there's a huge difference between intolerant and sensitive. So, intolerant is like you literally have like food poisoning, you're ill, you're sitting throwing up, right? Like you probably shouldn't be having that. Now, I always say it's up to you to weigh out the pros and cons. Like, is it worth it to you? I know so many people who are like literally lactose intolerant and like still will be eating the ice cream and suffering through it the next day. And like that's on you, like that's cool. Like you can do whatever you want to do. And I always will say that to you guys, like, is this important to you? You weigh out the pros and cons. If it is important to you, I'll help support you through that. If not, then we move on. Same thing with dairy and gluten, right? So it's like if I notice gut issues or inflammation or any of these triggering things, I'm going to tell you that, and I'm going to tell you, hey, maybe we should experiment with it and just cut it out for a week, or, do a food journal and see how it feels when we cut these out, and see if it even makes a difference. Because if it doesn't, then hey, cool, now you get to keep it and not have to worry about it. But if you notice like a night and day difference and that maybe you're more sensitive to it, then it might be something worth exploring. And another example of this is like I typically eat dairy-free, gluten-free during the week, not because I'm intolerant to it or even really that I'm not sensitive to it, but I am in a sense in that when I do eat it, I feel like I do have more brain fog and it's very just interesting. So like for me, I'm really busy during the week. I'm trying to feel my best. So um I'll typically avoid it when it's possible. But with that being said, like if I go out to eat during the week or something, I'm not married to that rule, right? So once again, all of this is stuff to where I don't want to fearmonger you. I don't want you to feel like it's like a rule to live by, but I just kind of wanted to drown out the noise around these topics and issues of like, is this important? Is it not important? And same thing with seed oils and artificial sweeteners and stuff. Like a lot of it's going to come down to, your individual tolerance and your body's responses to these. If I'm noticing inflammation, I'll point it out. If not, then just like in general, just you can limit these things where possible, right? And same thing with like the non-tox and like crunchy people. I love y'all, but it's like they're not gonna like live and die by all these rules either. You know what I mean? It's like just do it where you can, what feels comfortable to you. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing or 0 to 100 of like I'm gonna throw everything out. And if I do one thing out of order, then I'm screwed. It's like, that's going to be up to the individual. And it's about what we do most of the time too. We don't have to do it all of the time. And I hope throughout, just even today, me kind of sharing what I focus on and prioritize versus what I don't can also help you kind of differentiate of like, my happy medium might look different than your happy medium too, right? And that's kind of what we're all here to figure out. And at the end of the day, I just want you guys focusing on the things that drive the needle forward and drown out the bullshit of what's really not important. So that is it for today. I have 3 minutes left before it kicks us out. Is there any other questions about any of this? Pepper. Is there maybe one that I did not cover that you're like, well, what about this that you have a question on? I covered them all. All right. After this, if there's any that you come up with or that you're like, I wish she would have covered this. If you guys see anything trending on TikTok, if you ever want me to debunk any myths, if you ever want me to share the science and the data behind any of this stuff to support it, please challenge me. I would love to, just pour all the education. I really try to just make it simple and, digestible for you, no pun intended, and not try to bore you guys with all that stuff. But if you ever want to see it or want my opinion on something, please let me know. I have old clients to this day that still text me, call me, asking my opinion on new shit that comes out or something they come across too. So once a client, always happy to help. And yeah, so thank you guys, and let's make it a good week. And yeah, have a good night.
Th- Thank you.
Thanks, Sophia.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan. All right. Bye, guys. Make it a good week. Love y'all.